Mario Kart 64 was one of my first video games, and it will always hold a special place for me, not just because it was my introduction to the series, but because of the little details that have stuck with me since. One in particular stands out. On Royal Raceway, if you veered off at just the right bend, you could drive all the way to Peach's castle. And not just any castle, it was the exact one from Super Mario 64, complete with the moat, waterfall, and those familiar green hills you'd normally run around in. The castle didn't serve any gameplay purpose, of course. Aside from reappearing in the cut results screen, it was just there. But something about that inclusion stuck with me. It got me thinking, what if you could actually drive through those doors? What if each painting led to a course instead of a level? It was a small, easily missed detail on a single track, but it planted a big idea. Mario Kart could be more than just a collection of tracks. It could be a connected world. And now, some 30 years later, Mario Kart World feels like it's finally chasing that idea in earnest. Taking cues from Super Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild, Mario Kart World reimagines the series with an open-ended structure that redefined those franchises. It also borrows a few moves from games like Forza Horizon, blending traditional races with free-form driving challenges, battles, and exploration, all within one massive, seamless map. The shift does more than just expand the size of the game. It fundamentally changes how we think about Mario Kart tracks. While classic circuits still exist, many are now embedded naturally into the world itself. Races begin and end in believable, grounded locations. The city streets, a spaceport, a working factory. You're not just selecting a track from a menu anymore, but physically driving to it, with the roads in between becoming just as important as the race itself. That change, and the idea that the journey between races could be part of the experience, immediately reminded me of another great Mario Kart moment. Although more recent, is one that in hindsight feels like it quietly laid the tarmac for Mario Kart World's vision. Because if any single track foreshadowed where the series was headed, it was Mount Wario in Mario Kart 8. Okay, I'll admit I'm being a little biased. Mount Wario being my choice track might have something to do with the fact that it's Wario themed, and Wario just happens to be my number one guy. But in this case, I think that bias is actually meaningful. Mario Kart tracks are often themed around specific characters, and their personalities are reflected in the design. Mario's circuit, much like Mario himself, is balanced and straightforward, a perfect introduction to both the mechanics and the concept of racing. Donkey Kong's tracks usually drop you into dense jungles and ancient ruins, and Peach's courses lean into a royal aesthetic, placing you in grand castles or palace gardens. But Wario, well, his tracks always go a little harder. They feel more extreme and often chaotic, pushing what a Mario Kart course can be. That trend began with Mario Kart 64 and Wario Stadium, a wild and bumpy arena full of jumps and deep turns that exemplified the series' big shift into 3D. Its remake in Mario Kart World pushes that even further, giving the track a grungy junkyard makeover built from repurposed auto parts and trash sculptures, a stark contrast to the game's otherwise sleek and polished environments. Then came Wario Colosseum in Double Dash, a massive spherical circuit so sprawling and chaotic that it only really needed 2 laps to make its mark. Both tracks embrace scale, height, and visual spectacle, and in many ways, Mount Wario feels like the natural culmination of that design philosophy, dialing up the intensity while tightening the focus. So while Mario Kart 8 is better remembered for its anti-gravity gimmicks, its standout moment for me is that final track at the Star Cup, a single, uninterrupted downhill sprint that feels like a high-speed obstacle course, paced with the rhythm and progression of a classic 2D Mario level. The race begins at the snowy summit of a mountain and carves a path through a variety of environments. Icy caves, dense forests, a roaring hydroelectric plant, before finally gliding past alpine ski lodges and crossing the finish line at the base. Like Mario's best platforming stages, the track builds momentum as it goes, introducing mechanics like slippery ice sections that force you to rethink traction and control, then disrupting that rhythm with anti-gravity stretches or airborne segments that shift the rules entirely. The whole time, the music mirrors the action, evolving with each section, layering new elements as you descend, and culminating in a climactic final push for the finish. And because there are no laps, there's no repetition. Every jump, every drift, every shortcut matters more. You don't get a second try to perfect a turn. Unless of course you restart your time trial to shave down your records. To be clear, Mount Wario wasn't the first Mario Kart track to use this single lap format, nor is it the only one in Mario Kart 8 with that design. But what makes it stand out from what came before is that sense of place. Every section of the track works together to sell the illusion that you're racing through a real mountain. It's thematically cohesive in a way that, like Peach's castle being off the track of Royal Raceway, sparks the imagination. Is this Wario's personal playground? Does he own the hydroelectric plant and the ski resort? Or did he just slap his name on it like a brand deal? Whatever the answer, it makes Mount Wario feel lived in and belonging to a larger world that exists beyond the race. And that's exactly the direction Mario Kart World has picked up and run with. Instead of dropping players into a collection of isolated tracks, it weaves everything together into a single contiguous world. You're not just warping between isolated courses, you're driving through cities and cruising along highways, cutting through train yards and pipe factories. No longer just the trim on the course, their aesthetics are part of the world building, and because of this blurring between racetrack and world, you're forced to adapt on the fly. No circular laps means no safety net. You either get it right the first time, or you live with your mistakes. In many ways, it feels like an evolution on a lesson Nintendo first explored back in Super Mario 64, how to guide players through large, open spaces in a way that still feels deliberate. One of the simplest ways was to establish landmarks. Mountains in particular are perfect, they're visible from anywhere, naturally draw the eye and suggest a challenge worth climbing. Mount Wario, of course, flips that concept. Instead of urging you up, it pulls you down, turning the track into a roller coaster of shifting environments and escalating challenges. But the underlying principle is the same. Take a broad and expressive space and shape it around a clear, linear objective. Build gameplay into the world's layout and use visual and thematic cues to drive the player forward. Mario Kart World does this elegantly, with each track having pre-composed races between them, turning the highways and passes between circuits into chaotic road trips where anything can happen. That's also where the world building comes in, when the environment isn't just a backdrop but something that sparks curiosity. A ski lodge, a power plant, a cave system. It invites players to imagine the world beyond the race. And in Mario Kart World, where exploration exists alongside competition, those kind of purposeful landmarks help fuel the desire to see what's around the next corner. The city off in the distance, the Cooper Beach party on the way off island, and maybe even what's up in the clouds above. It's a vision of Mario Kart that's less about repetition and more about exploration, about telling a story with a beginning, middle and end. And in that respect, Mario Kart World feels like the natural next step in a journey that started years ago, with a mountain, a name, and one forgettable race to the bottom. Hey, thanks for watching this kind of video essay-ish thing about a game I'm pretty into at the moment. By the way, if you're looking to make a Mario Kart World video in the future but have trouble doing your own capture, I've actually been uploading these clips over to the Game Footage Archive for any video maker to use. This video, by the way, was made possible by my lovely Patreon, so you can see on screen now. It's only £1 to support the channel and you'll get a shout out at the end of videos just like this. Until next time, I'm James, and I'll see you all in the next upload.